Hi, and welcome to the Maiden Fair podcast. Each week we recap the latest episode of Game of Thrones with less than accurate discussions. We try to fill in the gaps, predict the future, and discuss the merits of attractive people. No promises on no spoilers, but promises we didn't know they were spoilers. I'm the bear, Liz Loxley.
And I'm the Maiden Fair, Mia Moore.
So Mia, did we mess up on anything last week?
We messed up on something because Targaryens are easy to mix up, especially when they don't really introduce all of them. I totally recognized it when we were talking about it, too. I just didn't say anything.
I didn't care.
But basically, we mixed up. We said that Rhaegar went crazy, but really that was Aerys the Mad King. And we knew that. I think it's just because they were just talking about the Targaryen and, you know, that whole thing. It's all mixed up. No one knows what's happening.
All right, so now on to the show discussion. Do you have anything to say on the previously on?
Only that I keep forgetting to fast forward it, and it wasn't particularly spoilery this time around.
I will say one thing is that it purposely reminds you that Aemon is a Targaryen, which is another thing forwarding to R plus L equals J, which we mentioned in last episode, and shows up again in this episode.
Yeah, I did notice that, but I think that was probably an example where it's not spoilery, though, because it's a character that we've kind of forgot even exists because we haven't seen him in a long time. So
I never forget about Aemon.
Well, I don't forget about him. I just mean, like, as a show watcher, it's one of those characters you haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, and also the time he came out as a Targaryen is very forgetful.
Came out.
It really felt like that.
Okay.
So now we're in Meereen, or starting off the episode in Meereen, and first it shows Grey Worm as sort of alive.
I was so happy about this because I was right. I'm never right, and I was right.
I know, I saw this and I was like, she was right to a T, bitch.
Yeah, I was like, he's sort of alive, and you were like, there's no way, they're dead. And even at the end of the last episode, you were like, they're dead. And I'm like, no, Game of Thrones loves to be misleading.
I even thought, because Mia watches the episode after I do, so I even thought about texting her being like, you were right, because it wouldn't have been spoiler, because it's literally the first 3 seconds. But I figured I'd let her have that pride on her own.
No, it was really great. As soon as it came up, I turned to Colby and I'm like, I was right.
And then it shows Barristan is definitely dead.
Yeah, I actually really liked this part because the way that they shoot both of the scenes, they're very short, but they show Grey Worm and they kind of like pan up and they show Missandei, and she's like, oh, thank God you're okay, kind of thing. And for Sir Barry, they show his little like lifeless body and they pan up to Dany looking really sad, and I thought it was a good like
mirror.
Yeah, mirror. That wasn't the word I was going to say, but that works.
You looked like you were struggling.
I was like, is juxtaposition correct?
And then they're coming up with theories on how to deal with the harpies. And Dario apparently had 2 ideas. One was to basically kill out the rats, which were his wording, through going through places and essentially ratting them out. Not done, makes sense. Words, hard. And the other one was gathering all of the leaders of the great families and doing stuff with them.
Man, I think this is right when I texted you and I was like, in this week's Game of Thrones, Dany continues to be a bad leader. When I rewatched it, I was like, I love it when she speaks in languages that aren't the common tongue. Because she's very like, every time she speaks in a non-English language, it's very sensual, and I enjoy that.
Yeah, I feel like she's almost better when she's not speaking in English.
She's more convincing as a leader, for sure.
Definitely. Maybe that's a lot of what's fallen with her, too, because I think we completely dropped off the Dany train once she stopped using as much other languages.
Oh my God, that could be part of it. But then again, like, I think she stopped using other languages when she stopped respecting their cultures as much, and this is just a symptom of that, too. Like, we've discussed that previously, but I think that's part of it.
Probably.
So, also, have you noticed that sometimes they translate Valar Morghulis and sometimes they don't?
I feel like there's no way they don't do that without it supposed to meaning something. Oh my gosh, English.
Yeah, you're having a real struggle this time. Like, should we start the episode over?
No, I'm good.
Okay, all right.
I just need to sleep more before Tuesdays. All right, so then they're in a dragon pit. I assume you have a lot more to say about this than I do because you always talk about dragons and how much you want dragons.
I was excited to see dragons. I was not... Okay, this is weird of me. I was not excited to see a barbecued man because I don't like the idea of dragons eating human meat, which makes no sense because you think I'm a vegan. You think I'd be upset that they eat meat at all. But for some reason, them like literally destroying a man in front of your eyes, that was just too much for me. I was like, no, dragons, be good.
Oh, I love humans being eaten by animals. It's always been a thing of mine. That's how I got into bears.
God.
The one thing I have really to say about this scene is that the thing when Danny looks Dario in the eye and Dario knows immediately what she means is kind of sexy.
I totally missed that, but it does sound sexy.
That's like right because she did it whenever he chopped off Mossador's head, and then she did it again whenever Dario pushed the guy in front of the dragons.
Oh, okay.
And I like that she's kind of like dominatrixy in this episode.
Yeah. She was pretty sexy. But it was definitely, I don't know. I was just like, Danny, what are you doing? Danny, no, stop. Like, I was just like, this is a pile of bad decisions. Don't actually kill anybody, especially not the person that's like on your small council. As what's his face says, Pycelle, small council is growing smaller and smaller.
Yeah. Part of me, okay, this is just like the discussion part. Part of me thinks Hizdar is the leader of the Harpy.
Yeah, you see, I've thought about that too. And I get that we're not supposed to know, but like, I feel like it's going to end up being a character we've already been introduced to, and we don't know that many Marinians.
Yeah. Especially, we only know one of the Highborn. Like,
yeah.
No. So.
And they didn't introduce any of the others that they brought into the scene, so I kind of feel like from a show watching perspective, it's probably that, just because they don't introduce extraneous characters.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to speculate because I think that's probably the least important part of this arc anyway, is who is actually running them.
I disagree completely.
Really?
Yes. Obviously there's someone trying to take her power, so there has to be someone at the head of the Hydra.
Yeah, but there's always somebody trying to take her power. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm sick of that part, and I want to see, like, Danny actually growing into a leader, because you know she's going to get past whatever this is, you know?
Yeah. All right. Do you have anything else to say other than, I guess it's important to mention that he's like, Valar Morghulis, Hizdar is whenever she tries to kill him, but I don't have anything to say about that other than it happened.
Yeah, it was interesting. All the other ones were cowering in fear, and he was like, I'm going to be brave, and I totally thought more of him until the later scene where he's like, I just didn't want to die a coward, and I'm like, oh.
All right.
I thought you were actually brave. You fooled me.
So now we're at the wall. Aemon and Samwell are talking about how Aemon is the last Targaryen other than Dany.
I was just like, okay, sure.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay. So right after this, Jon walks in, which is another R plus L equals J, because they're like, wah, only one Targaryen other than Dany. Wah. Jon walks in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're not even trying to be subtle. Also, I had one note for when it was just Aemon and Sam, and it was, Sam says Daenerys the way that I did before you told me that I said it weird. So there you go. It's officially accurate in the Westerosi dialogue.
You're just a northerner.
Or like, I'm a classy gent.
No. So then Jon walks in. Do you have anything to say about this scene?
Okay, so when the episode was called Kill the Boy, and they showed Ollie in the preview, I was like,
hoping died.
Well, especially because I've been listening to Cast of Kings, and I swear to God, this is not just a podcast where I discuss Cast of Kings, but one of the podcasters really loves Ollie, and they're like always joking that it means that he's for sure gonna die. And I was like, oh God, this is the episode. Ollie's gonna go away. And then the quote actually ended up being, "Kill the boy, Jon Snow. Like, make their decision, become a man." And I was like, damn.
Kill the boy and let the man be born.
Yeah.
And my notes next to that are yawn.
I also was not like super impressed by this. Usually I like the titles of the episodes, yeah. But I thought this one was kind of uninspired and kind of generic.
Okay, I think it's Family Guy that has this joke, and I hate that I'm referencing it, but I think at one part, and they're like at the bar and they're talking about, you know that part in the show where they mention the name of the show and you're just like, woo! And ever since then, I've always hated when that happens, like when they'll be like mentioning the name of the movie in the movie whenever you hear that. So this, I was like, oh God, make it more obvious, please. It just, it annoyed me.
But like usually I think they pick a really key moment, and this was also to me not the biggest part of this episode.
Also, on top of that, yeah, that's the entire point of his plotline this season. We got it. Like, one thing that's been annoying me is that at the end of every episode, at the very, very end, they have like a little behind the scenes with Benioff and Weiss, and every time it's like, the things they describe about the episodes are things that should be obvious. And that
I feel so bad that they even bring them into the studio and make them record these things, because they're literally like, in this scene, Eamon and John are talking. Like, they do less in-depth talking than we do, and we barely dive into anything.
Yeah, I was like, and if what they said didn't come across in that scene, then you just did a terrible job at doing that scene, which is how I felt about that sentence, was that, yes, we understand that the boy of Jon Snow is dead and that now he is becoming a man. It has been so severely obvious through this entire series that you would name the episode when tons more awesome stuff happens, and the most obvious thing that happens in this, like, and maybe it would have been great if like someone's boy had died later in the episode, but that didn't happen. Yeah. That's what I thought was going to happen, was Ollie was going to die later.
I think the parallel they're trying to make too, it might be with Ramsay. No, Roose. No, which one's the boy?
Ramsay.
Okay, I was right. Sorry, their names are too similar. My brain cannot compute. But I think they were trying to make that, because they always try to do parallels in the episodes, and I think that was what they were going for. But to me, it didn't come across, because I don't think he's actually killing the boy inside. So I don't think that was valid either. I thought it was a pretty lame name for the episode and a pretty lame line in general. It was not inspiring the way I think they intended it to be.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say about this before we move on to his conversation with Tormund?
That's it. Also, I didn't know who Tormund was, so when I was reading your notes, I was like, who the hell is Tormund?
I obviously am attracted to the actor, and that is why I know the name of the character.
He's got a beard, he's tall. Isn't he ginger? He's all yours.
And he's like Swedish or something. He was in...
You're always into the weird ones.
Yeah, I can't help it. I can't just be into Jon Snow. I'm into the Wild Link.
Well, excuse me, they are free folk, because as we've established in this coming scene, they are people too.
It's true. I have a few things to say. Do you want to start, though?
Yeah, I wrote down 3 quotes. Okay. So, you belong to the realms of men, all of you. Jon Snow's like, hey, our pact totally includes the free folk, and I decided it's so. And I thought that was cool. So then Tormund is like, oh, they're not going to kneel for you. And Jon says, I don't want them to kneel. I just want them to fight. And I wrote down, Jon, that's worse. Like, yeah, I would rather kneel than fight. Like,
yeah,
God.
One thing that similar to that is when Jon is talking to him and is like, you're too proud to make peace. Or maybe you aren't proud, but maybe you're just a coward. And I was like, those are literally Jon's 2 murder-based lessons he's learned this season. That sometimes people aren't proud, and sometimes they're just a coward. Congratulations, you learned something from your murder.
You know, I have been against the critics who are like, Game of Thrones sucks this season, but I do think some of this stuff is just way too obviously spelled out, and that's one of the things, is like, all of Jon Snow's story arc is really obvious, which actually this is the first time we're liking it, so maybe that works.
Yeah, I think I don't disagree with the critics. I understand the critics who are like, it's so different from the books, but obviously because I don't read the books, that it's fine for me. And I really enjoyed a lot of the stories that I didn't like before more this series, but the stories I did like before I kind of hate. Like Sansa herself, I'm not really caring about this season as much as I did before, compared to the fact that I care about Ramsay more.
They are making us care about characters that previously I haven't, so I guess they're successful in that way, but there's other stuff that they're losing focus on, and I think this Jon Snow storyline in this episode, they kind of lost me, even though I've been focused on it.
Yeah. And also, just calling to confirm. That sounds like I'm setting up an appointment.
Yeah, it does. I was like, excuse me, you did not call me. I called you.
I think Tormund said the wildlings are in Harrenhal, but I couldn't hear over his beard.
I don't think he said Harrenhal, because I think it's a place that's north of the wall.
That's what I was thinking, but then I thought that they said the boats were going south at some point later in the episode. But then again, why the hell would they be in Harrenhal?
Also, why do they need boats? Like, I'm very confused. Aren't they in a landlocked area?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They would need boats to get down to Harrenhal. That would make sense, because the north just is a whole bunch of land. So, I don't know. That doesn't make any sense. I know it doesn't. So, genuinely, if you know what he said there or where they're at, please email or tweet us. That is a genuine question I have.
Well, yeah, so he does say where the wildlings are, or the free folk, sorry. And, Jon Snow gets him out of his chains, which I thought was really cool. He was like, oh, that's not very brave of you to say to a man who's chained up. And Jon Snow's like, here, let me have this really long, like somewhat sensual scene of me taking your chains off.
Woo! Do you have
And then Tormund is like, you have to come with me or I won't go. And so he gives him an ultimatum, which I thought was interesting because we don't actually know whether or not Jon accepted, right? Like, they don't show that. But it's presumed that he did.
Yeah, because that answered my question, is that I thought he would have eventually gone to Winterfell with that, because I was like, oh, of course they're going to make Sansa and him meet this season, but if he's going to, Harrenhal or wherever they're going, then he wouldn't be able to cross those two storylines.
Yeah, So anyway, like, it looks like Jon Snow is going on an adventure, which I think we can all agree is a good idea.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the Night's Watch is pissed.
I only have 2 notes, so I'll say them real quick in case you have more. Mine is just LOL sassy grammar Stannis.
Yeah, I call them Stannis the Manus. Also, that's a callback to a previous scene in season 2. I saw Joanna Robinson tweet about it. It's the same joke. He says, someone says less and he says fewer again.
That's kind of cute.
I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
Stannis is very proper.
I kind of want to really rewatch the old episodes to get through Stannis again, like, because now that I like him. And then my other note is blah blah crows versus the blah blah wildlings. I've been over this dumb fight for seasons now.
Yeah. I find it really hard to believe that people are still that mad about this same conflict that's not even a real conflict. It's literally just, we fight them because we've been fighting them. But I guess that's what Romeo and Juliet's all about.
Yeah, I know it's like a common thing and that it mirrors a lot of that's like Israel and Palestine at this point too. And it's just one of those things that's like, oh, this is just how things are. But I don't think they've ever done a good enough job in this show truly showing that hatred, because we were only seeing it through Jon's eyes rather than the other crows. So we never ever got like a negative view of the wildlings.
Well, we did see them kill Ollie's family.
Yeah, but that didn't even bother me that much.
It didn't bother me because, and they also killed the other 2 Night's Watchmen that were named in the last season.
Grin.
Pip and Gren.
Yeah.
Hey, see, I remember you started laughing.
It's just, that was one of those things that's like, y'all also wanted to fight them. So yeah, of course you're going to lose people in war. That's how war works.
Yeah, I thought that was a poor argument. I don't know. I agree with you. I think they're doing a lot more like telling rather than showing of this conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, as a sidebar, I would love if Game of Thrones released a supercut of all of insert character here's scenes, because like I would totally watch a Dany movie or a Stannis movie, like just one character and then maybe like scenes that revolve around them a little bit from other parts so that like what's going on, but you don't have to rewatch like all million hours of the show.
But if you're like, man, I should pay attention to Roose and Stannis now.
Yeah.
Suddenly they're interesting and I can tell the difference between them.
Well, and also the Greyjoys, like the same thing happened to me there where there are so many plot
the
lines.
Greyjoys and the Freys are very confusable, like the Boltons and
Yes.
Stannis. Like those 2 storylines have conflicted. You know what I mean?
Yeah, confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like honestly, it's only because I read like some of the books that I even know who is who in that whole plot line, and it makes me realize like how much I must have missed in the first couple of seasons. So like I want to watch that part again, but I can't deal with losing Khal Drogo again. Like I don't want to go through all the pain. I just want to go through the parts that I thought were initially boring.
For real, I have watched it through the second time, and the second time the Red Wedding is so much more interesting the episode after it. Do recommend rewatching that if you know the characters better now, because then you see Roose Bolton there, you see all of that, you see the discussion between him and Frey, and it's way more interesting when you actually understand what's going on. So
yeah, because the Red Wedding to me was just like some random dude kills all the Starks, but I realized that there's a lot of political stuff that happened, and it's not something I got until I read into it. Because I feel like the show doesn't do a terribly good job of making you interested in characters that matter later.
Yeah, exactly. The only reason I remember who Frey is because it's Filch from Harry Potter.
Yeah, because they actually, like, the Freys were pretty heavily, nope, that was Craster's Keep. Damn.
Wow,
I was like, yeah, they were in last season too, and nope, different thing.
Then we have Jon and Ollie back to the episode. Do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I wrote that he was like, oh, they killed my family. And I'm like, dude, you killed Egret. Didn't you get your revenge? Like, I think you're good.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I was like, get over it. And also, my only note is, at this point, I was like, oh God, get me out of the wall. I don't care. Like, I had completely checked out at this point. I was done. And then,
well, this was the only time that I was about to say it's the only time they go to the wall, but it's not, because I was like, maybe that's why it's so concentrated. I don't know.
The next time's interesting, or at least slightly more interesting, because it's Davos. Anyways, that's not where we're at yet. Now we're in Winterfell.
Which is not Moat Cailin. And continues to not be Moat Cailin. You know, we would have figured it out on our own by now, because we do see, like, some Winterfell landmarks, yeah.
That'd be sad if we're like, did they just move all of the Stark graves to Moat Cailin? Damn it.
How close is Moat Cailin to the Stark graves? Like, is that a day trip, or like...
Is it like the moat around Winterfell? Like, what's going on? Okay. So first we see Podrick and Brienne. And the only note I have is Brienne saying Sansa's in danger, even if she doesn't realize it.
Yeah, and Podrick's like, maybe she's actually safe here. I don't know, Brienne. Maybe we shouldn't get involved again. Like, Podrick always trying to be the voice of reason. Brienne always shutting him down.
Also, when Podrick walks up, 'cause you know how it shows him walking up to, like, the building, he is straight up a real-life bobblehead.
I will have to rewatch that.
He's
just
like,
so I can see that.
Like, hold your head still, boy. You were on camera.
Acting 101.
And then some dude from Winterfell comes in.
Dude from Winter. That's a totally different kind of dude.
And Brienne talks to him. Do you have anything to say about that?
The North remembers.
I really don't. That scene is so unentertaining to me. I'm sure it's important. I don't care.
Of course it's important. It comes up, like, literally less than 5 minutes later.
What?
She's like, I'm a friend of Sansa's. Let's all, like, do Sansa. And then the Winterfell woman comes into Sansa's quarters and tells her if she needs anything to light a candle.
Yeah, but that's not the same. They've already mentioned that she has friends in Winterfell.
Yeah, but I think that's what it is. She needed to get a message to Sansa. I think that was the message.
I don't. I think the woman already is Team Stark, and that.
I cannot wait to be right next episode.
We'll see.
Since they really are resolving these plot lines pretty quickly.
I think the Winterfell dude is going to be something different next episode. Just to put out my pot
prediction.
Yeah. So then we show Ramsay and Miranda, and you have marked that you have more notes than I do. So go for it.
Yeah, I don't think you thought this scene was important. And honestly, at first I was like, oh, good, more sex with characters that I don't really like. But I think this was probably the best sexposition that we have had in this season so far, because we all forgot who Miranda was. I only remembered because I was reading the wiki. And you remembered because you remember everybody. I only remembered because I was reading the wiki and I was like, oh yeah, Ramsay does have girlfriends, and she did totally kill somebody with the crossbow last season or the season before. So I thought this was good because it helps us remember who she is. It establishes her, like she basically says, or it is said that she's the Kennel Master's daughter, which becomes important in the very next scene. And we get an idea of their relationship dynamic, which is that it's totally fucked up. And also, I thought the scene was pretty funny because she's clearly jealous, and she goes, do you think Sansa, do you think she's pretty? And he says, of course I do. I'm not blind. And I thought that was really funny because Ramsay's a total jerk.
I loved it because that's the first time you've ever seen that question be answered honestly in TV ever. Because yes, of course she's pretty. Don't be jealous about that. Like, pretty girls exist in the world with you. You are just as pretty as her, though. Like, that's
and that's not going to take him. That's not going to be what takes him away from you. Like, it's not going to be because she was also pretty.
See, I found the scene. I mean, for me, the scene was mostly saying Ramsay now finds his name more important than anything, which is mirrored later on in this same time frame. Being like, I would have married you, and I still would, but now that I am a Bolton, I have to do the honors of a Bolton rather than the honors of a bastard.
It's really interesting because he's still a jerk, and he always has been a jerk, but his methods and ways of being a jerk have shifted entirely.
They fit in so much more now that he's a noble-born, because it just feels like Joffrey rather than just this psycho bastard.
Yeah, but he also, like, I'm not sure that he would have tortured Theon the same way that he did if he was a Bolton at the time.
I agree.
Yeah, I think he feels like he has Now, granted, they're still crazy made up in his head standards, but he has different standards to live up to.
Yes. The only other notes I have are a boy butt with stars in the eyes. I have an emoji of that because I love Iwan Ryan, the actor, which is why I remembered Miranda is really the honest truth, is because I like Iwan Ryan. And he plays Ramsay, and I think he's beautiful. And I'm like, oh.
He's really pretty, but I get all conflicted because I only know him from Game of Thrones, and I do not want to be attracted to him.
The other show I know him from, he is also not a great person. So it's fine.
Yeah, I know, but at this point, I just expect that from you.
Yeah.
I was excited to see Boy Butt.
The other note I have is, man, this scene was a scene to watch with your mom. Because normally my mom and I watch it together the second time I watch it, so I'm just taking notes, and it's not me being actively learning the same time she is, but we're just watching this really, really aggressive, fucked up sex scene together, and it's just like, you have to watch it because there's so much power play going in on that sex scene, and it's kind of hot, but then your mom is right there.
Thank God she doesn't listen to this podcast.
I know. I mean, she knows my feelings later. After we're not actively watching it together.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. I think it was the smart thing, too. Oh, no, it wasn't. It was just about Miranda's hip bones. Like, the angle that they give her, her hip bones look like they're just going to poke that door frame or window frame or something.
I know. I thought that they just had really pretty bodies. That's a weird thing. I noticed her hip bones as well.
I was just like, oh, you're pokey, but, like, not in a bad way. You're just, like, it was very, like, pronounced with the angle that they put her at.
Yeah, and the lighting.
Yeah, I was just like, do you guys hurt each other when you have sex because you're so bony?
I mean, they are definitely into it, let's be honest.
Well, yeah. I saw what Miranda did. I was there. Rawr.
Do you have anything else to say?
No, let's move on. But before we, I don't know, someone save us from ourselves.
I know, we're about to get a little too raunchy.
I think we already passed that line. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's true. It's okay. We'll always be perverts in our hearts. So now the Winterfell woman shows up to Sansa, who we talked about earlier. Do you have anything extra to add?
No, but I want to put it out officially. I do believe this is related to Brienne because they are not being subtle at all.
I do not think it was rated Brienne. I think that's different, and I think this Winterfell woman is acting on not her own, but among other Winterfellians who are like, oh gosh, maybe we have a chance. But
also, isn't it fucked up that they make her light a candle in the tower where her brother got crippled?
That's exactly. My notes are, what? She ain't alone. Light a fire in the window your bro was crippled in.
No, both me and Colby are looking at it and we're like, I recognize that tower, which is weird because you're not like, oh, yes, I know all the towers in Winterfell. Like, of all the towers, they make it the same one.
Yeah. For some reason, I knew it was that one. Maybe it was just in my heart, I knew. Then we show the scene between Sansa and Miranda. The main note I have of this is I really like how they brought up that her mother taught her to sew because we're really seeing Sansa turn into her mother. But I have read the first book of Game of Thrones, and I believe it's Sansa's first chapter or Arya's first chapter where they're doing sewing lessons, both Sansa and Arya. And Sansa's amazing at sewing. She's very good at sewing. And she's sewing with her friend Jane Poole, who is the actual person Ramsay marries in the book. But the reason Needle is named Needle is because Arya was very bad at sewing and Sansa was good. So Arya's like, my strength is going to be, my needle is going to be fighting instead of sewing. So I just thought that was like really, really good callback to a lot of Sansa's original character.
I love that we're making her look and act and just kind of overall be a lot more like her mother. I think it's a really great callback, and I might just be like kind of weepy about it because the older I get, the more I like am acting like my own mom, so I relate to it. And it would just be so hard to lose your mom at a young age, and the way that she did, I feel for Sansa so much. Yeah,
I think, and they're doing a really good job at this one at not making it overly obvious while still making it like, seems like she's starting to transition to a real Stark.
Yes.
Nice. And a Stark I don't hate, so that's great.
So technically a Tully, I guess.
And then Miranda keeps saying nice shit about her mom, obviously trying to manipulate her into, like, liking her.
It's not even nice. It's not even nice, because she's definitely like, oh, I'm sorry you lost your mom. And I'm like, shut up. Like, I hated this scene. And
well, it was
like
it was pretending to be nice, because she was trying to manipulate her.
I know, but it made me uncomfortable. Like, I didn't dislike this scene as a scene. I disliked it as a watcher, because I was like, no, I hate you, Miranda.
And I was like, my other note is Miranda fancies her as a Ramsey type. Like, she's trying to be Ramsey, but she doesn't have the abilities that Ramsey does, because she doesn't have the power that he has.
Well, do you think that he put her up to this scene and the next scene with the kennel?
No.
Huh. Okay. Because I had the impression that they were, like, in a partnership, and that's why she wasn't as effective, is because in my head it was Ramsey telling her to do these things.
No, I think Ramsey understands the power he gets from Sansa and marrying that. So I don't think he wants to ruin the relationship with Sansa. I think Miranda is trying to purposely go out and run it for him.
Okay. I think that makes probably more sense.
And then Sansa in the kennel. Do you have any notes about this?
No. It was a very drawn out scene, and I was so scared about what it could be.
I know, me too. I was like, please don't be Catelyn's head. Please don't be Catelyn's head.
Oh my God. I was thinking, like, because it was a dog kennel, I was like, maybe it's one of the direwolves that are dead or something. Like, maybe it's like some family stuff. I don't know. And then also I wanted you to know that my cat was in my lap when we were watching this and hated the dog noises. Like, they were very convincing dog noises, I guess.
I know this isn't going to translate to the podcast listener, but which cat?
Catty.
Okay, just need to know. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, he's also afraid of, I was about to say dragons, but the reality is wine being dropped on him.
While dragons are also in the room.
Dragons are involved, but not really. Yeah, that was it. And then it was just Theon, which I'm like, oh, is he living in the kennels? Because it's not very nice.
Yeah.
Certainly they have, like, a proper dungeon.
So the next scene is Ramsay and Reek, which also Reek is like stench. That's his name, and I just got it. Like, he reeks.
You just got it?
Yeah, no, I just thought it, because I thought
like, literally just now, or when you were writing the notes?
When I was watching it, just whenever because it had been so long since they had mentioned his name was Reek. Because, I don't know, I have a friend named Rick who's spelled R-I-K, because he's dumb.
Sorry, Rick, if you're listening.
Oh, he's not.
Oh, I know. I don't even know Rick. I just thought it'd be funny to say.
But for some reason, like, my brain just thought of it as kind of like a dumb goth kid's nickname. Does that kind of make sense where I'd come from, where I wouldn't ever, like, translate that, though?
You know, I want to make fun of you so hard, but I know I've done stuff that's the exact same, so it can't. Like, I relate to how you messed up on this, but I will make fun of you a little, because how did you not catch it until now? Like, he's been Reeks for, like, 2 seasons now.
Because I genuinely just thought it was, like, a dehumanizing name, so you only get one syllable and it sounds bad.
Yeah, but it sounds bad because it's smelly. But to be fair, reek is not a word that I personally use a lot. Like, I know it's a word in our language still, but if it was something else like stink, you'd probably catch on a little faster. So I'll give you that one, but only because I've done stupid stuff like that before.
The only thing I thought about this scene is when Ramsay made Reek get on his knees. Is there's like, is he going to make him give him a blowjob? And
oh my God, I said the same thing. We were having this like mini sidebar, me and my boyfriend, about whether or not they do crazy sex stuff. And I was like, if you had a slave, like, pretend you're Ramsay Bolton, wouldn't you make him do crazy sex stuff? And he said no, because he's not gay. And I'm like, does that matter when there's constantly somebody there to suck your dick?
Yeah,
like, to me, it doesn't.
Gay.
I know. I think his view of sexuality is different than our view of sexuality.
That is probably true with most people.
Because I was just like, man, wouldn't that be great? Like, not the whole, like, you know, emotionally torturing
stuff. That's what Thomas Jefferson literally did. So it's a thing that's happened. There is historical precedent for it.
But I was just like, oh God, no, not this punishment. And then I was like, oh, I guess he's going to cut off his fingers. And I was like, cool, he's going to get Sir Davos on this. And
then, nope.
It was super suspenseful for how little happened.
Yeah, I think that's what I hate about this whole episode, is that that's all that happened in this episode. Suspense, nothing.
There was
nothing
a lot of lead up. And then the scenes that I feel like actually mattered more didn't have any suspense.
All right. Do you have anything else to mention about Ramsay and Reek?
Not until the dinner scene.
All right. So it's dinner time with Roose, Ramsay, Waldher, and Sansa. And
It's not Waldor. Her name is Walda. All the girls are Walda.
I thought hers was Waldor because I sound like they said R, but I knew it was just close enough to
that's
Frey.
Just their dumb accent.
I was gonna say that's racist, but I mean, who cares? Sansa is straight up Catelyn in this scene, which I love. Like,
I love it so much.
Genuine weird Catelyn outfits.
My favorite line is Walda Frey or Walda Bolton, whatever, is like, oh, this must be so hard to be here because it's such a strange place. And she's like, immediately she interrupts her and is like, this isn't a strange place. This is my home. It's the people who are strange. And I'm like, burn.
I was just like, I love that Sansa is starting to be a straight up bitch. Like, Walder, you don't know shit. This is my territory.
And I can't believe she would say that. Like, is Walda just a dum-dum? Like, does she not know that no, her name's not Catelyn. Oh my gosh. That Sansa lived here? Like,
I don't think so.
She must not. But the Freys do know the Starks. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but there's also like 400 children. And the only reason that Roose is married to her is because she was the fattest. So I don't think he really married her for her brains.
Why did he marry her for being fat?
Because the trade was Frey said that he will pay the weight in gold of whichever girl he took. So he took the fattest one so he could get the most gold.
Oh, well, that's smart.
Right? Like, it's not like he cared about having a wife anyways.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Certain information from this episode may dictate otherwise.
So Ramsay tries to play a power play with Reek. I'm assuming you have some notes, so I'm going to let you start.
Okay. Ramsay, you gross man. Why did you bring Theon into this? And honestly, okay, so here's the thing. He makes Reek come in and be like head on with Sansa and makes him apologize for killing the Stark brothers. I forgot that Theon is, quote, responsible, unquote, for that death. I know they reminded us in the last episode, or last time on Game of Thrones part, but I totally forgot because we've been following the brothers around. We know they're not dead. We know those were just some other bodies. So I forgot that the rest of the world still thinks that they're dead.
Yeah.
I also figured that he had been found out at some point. Like someone just realized that, oh, there's these other two boy bodies that are missing and they're about the same size. Like I didn't realize that people actually bought that, especially since he was such a poor leader of Winterfell in that small time period anyway. So when when Ramsay makes him apologize, I was just like, oh, he's definitely going to tell her that he didn't actually kill them. Like I thought it looked like in his face that he had enough like willpower to break Reek for a minute and tell her, because you can still see Theon come out occasionally. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, he's totally going to tell her like, no, I didn't kill your brothers, because those were his brothers too, essentially. And that totally does not happen.
The one thing that made me realize is that I didn't realize how hostile the room was until they mentioned that, because in Sansa's eyes, everyone responsible for murdering her family is in that room. She has the Boltons, she has the Freys, and she has the Greyjoys. The only family missing is the Lannisters for Ned. Mm-hmm. So I didn't realize that was the situation, because I was like, well, Walda isn't responsible for anything, but she's technically still a Frey. Yeah. And we know that Theon didn't do it, but Sansa doesn't know that. So I was like, oh, shit, this is some rough stuff for her. Yeah,
like I'm glad they reestablished that, I guess, because I had forgotten, because we see this from, a show watcher's perspective. We don't remember what it's actually like from the characters' perspectives all the time. And I forgot. I thought that they had just assumed that the brothers were dead because they hadn't been seen in a while, not because of the whole burning children alive thing. Like, I thought that was a different thing.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, so Ramsay says that since Reek is the closest member of her family alive, that he's going to give away Sansa at the wedding. Which, on the other hand, to your point of him potentially manipulating Miranda and being anti-Sansa or whatever, this would go towards your point, because that's very disrespectful to Sansa.
Yeah, and I think, he's just trying to show, like, you're right, it's a power play. The whole thing is a power play. And he also says the North remembers. Like, he knows what he's doing.
Oh, yeah. And I just like that Roose is like, fuck your power play.
Yeah, he's like, okay, are you done playing? Because now I've got the real bomb.
Yeah. And I think, because it definitely felt like he was just fed up with it. And he's like, oh, guess what? I'm going to have a real son.
Yeah. But what's interesting is, like, the very next scene, I guess we'll just go straight into it. It's a very much the exact kind of scene that we had last week with Stannis and his daughter.
Yeah, I
where
noticed that
you
too.
realize like, well, in this case, it's a little different because they're strategizing together. But we have a whole like, well, this is how I came to know that you are my son and I care about you and I decided to keep you around and I love you and let's take over the world together. And it was very like, oh, okay. Like you get a better idea of the relationship. You can see why Ramsay is so fragile about it, but I really liked it as a scene.
My notes are Ramsay is a fat shaming bitch because he's hella jealous of a baby. And then we learned that Ramsay is a rape baby, which was the hardest thing to listen to, which is interesting because it's really trying to put you on Team Stannis because they are mirroring that last scene. That it's like, oh, Boltons are real bad. Because even though, like, to me, Roose and... For the longest time, I confused Roose and Stannis because they do have very similar just appearances and manners and things of that nature.
Yeah, the way they talk is very similar.
And so I thought they were the same for the longest time, but this is definitely showing that they're different. And also, my note is the story is 100% supposed to be a mirror of Stannis' scene from last episode. And I was like, again, the babies of Bolton and Baratheon are mattering. Am I right? I was just going to say, mentioned that last episode. I think they're both going to die.
Oh.
And then the quote from this one, just because I mentioned the quote from the scene between Stannis and his baby, is, but then I looked at you, and then I saw what I see now. You are my son. And I'm like, this is way less heartfelt than last time, because you just learned he's a rape baby.
Yeah, and he was also going to murder him. Like, Stannis never even was going to murder his baby, because he was like, no, I'm gonna
die.
Yeah, he was like, I'm gonna try to fight for this, like, even if I have to send her away, like, that's totally different than, like, straight up being like, oh, let's kill this baby and the mother that he wrote in on. Like, it was such a mirror, but also so gross. So it was really good. I liked it.
I really loved this mirror. Like, I would have never thought a million years ago that Roose and Stannis were going to be the characters I'm real excited about.
I wouldn't have even thought about this 5 episodes ago. Like, let's be real. Like, no.
And then we figure out that Roose does know, or at least assumes, that Stannis is going to march on Winterfell soon.
Yeah, which is it's really interesting because the way that they did this was such a strategic scene, as opposed to Stannis's was very heartfelt. And this, like, even when they start this scene, it's zoomed in on one of those little strategy maps where you put the X's where you're going to attack or whatever. Can you tell I am well versed in war?
It's the sigils. It's the X of that.
Really?
Yeah, the only reason I know that is because at Comic-Con last year they were selling that map, and the Comic-Con exclusive was the Bolton sigil. And so I remember it from that.
Gross. But anyway.
And also I've noticed only the Boltons use it.
Well, maybe they're the only ones with their head in the game. I don't know.
I almost went to a High School Musical reference, and
I thought it too. Okay, good.
I'm glad we're here together.
We are the Game of Thrones High School Musical podcast. Do you want to move on to the wall?
Yes.
No, you don't.
No, I do. I'm just embarrassed. So then we have Gilly and Samwell.
I thought this was an adorable scene.
My main note is that Samwell's a total asshole in this scene, but it's in the exact same way I'm accidentally an asshole a lot of the time. So it's like, oh shit, I'm kind of mean.
Oh, maybe that's why I thought it was cute.
Oh, do you feel like Gilly? Because it mirrors our
I'm a little bit like Gilly. But I thought it was cute because, like, she's just like, is this every book ever? And he's kind of like, no, you idiot.
He's like,
dude, give her a break. She just learned what an S is like 2 weeks ago.
She's doing great, Samwell.
I also thought it was cute because, like, this whole portion of the episode was very heavy into Sam, which of course makes me believe he's going to die. But it was like, oh, Sam used to want to be a maester. Like, that makes so much sense because his dad was totally into war and he was into books. And, like, it makes sense that his desire would be to be, like, the most well-learned man.
Yeah. Agreed. So then Stannis walks in, and I want to make the first note, because it has nothing to do with the actual scene, is, oh no, I was just attracted to Stannis. Help me. The Hound Jorah and now Stannis. Brain, please stop. At least Cersei is here to prove to me that I at least liked attractive women.
Yeah. I don't know how to help you.
He walked
but to be fair, Stannis is starting to really command the room when he enters it instead of just being like a fly on the wall, so I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, he just walked in and I was like, hey, oh no, I cannot. Okay, now we can get to the actual scene. I just needed to confess.
Okay. Well, I don't really have anything for this scene, even though it's a good one.
First off, I like that they mentioned that Samuel's dad is the only person who beat Robert Baratheon, which is a good, like, exposition to kind of know their relationship as families, to kind of remember that Samuel is from, you know, a named family. Then Stannis asks Samuel about killing a White Walker, which they mention the Children of the Forest, which is what Bran is with right now. So Bran is technically mentioned in this episode, which I find interesting because Bran is mentioned twice in this episode. Even though they say he's not supposed to be in the season, he is at least in spirit. This is a lot of character growth for Stannis, in my opinion, because this is the first time he's worried more than just getting the kingdom. He's worried about winter coming. He's, you know, talking to Samuel, being like, hey, Samuel, you figure out this winter thing, which I think is going to be important, because he ends the scene with saying, keep reading, Samuel Tarly, which I loved. And I really hope that there becomes a relationship with Stannis and Samuel, not that they both die, because I really, really like the idea of this, like, Stannis does, you know, all of the learning or all the fighting to get the kingdom, and Samuel does all the research to defeat winter. Like, that just I would love that. Why? Yeah. Why do I want Stannis to get the throne most now?
I don't know. It happened to me too, though, because we're starting to see these sides of Stannis where he's very, like, understanding of everybody's strengths and weaknesses. And I really dig that, because in a series that's so heavily about honor or winning battles, or, like, you know, women are defined in these ways and men are defined in these ways, he's kind of, like, gone over that and been like, no, I think you're a valuable person because you learned about these things. Like, your dad was good at this, but you're good at this. And my daughter's valuable even though she's not beautiful. And that's the main metric that people are judged by. Like, I just think we're starting to see Stannis as, like, a really likable character.
Yeah, and just the fact that he cares about winter. Like, that's such an impressive thing to me. And I know it's because the Red Woman told him that death marches upon the wall and that Samuel had seen the death, but... So now there's a scene between Stannis and Davos talking about, it's time to march. That's it. That's what happens in this scene. Do you find? And
then Davos and Shireen are there.
And then bitch mom is being a bitch mom, and Shireen's still being
as
cool.
usual. God, she's so terrible. How did Shireen turn out so cool when her mom is just the worst?
I know, and Shireen's like, I'm not afraid. Tell me about war, Davos. I really hope that on their march to Winterfell, there's 2 more scenes between Davos and Shireen, just being Davos and Shireen, because I love it. I love their relationship. Especially when, I still loved the scenes when she was teaching him to read. Like, those used to be the best Stannis scenes to me. And
see, I never even knew they were Stannis scenes until later on, because I was just like, what? Who are these people?
Yeah. It was the second watch in which I knew who they were.
Yeah. But yeah, she's super cute. They have, like, the cutest, like, he's the uncle she never had kind of thing.
Yeah, he's like the nice dad.
Yeah. He's like, well, she's got, like, an official dad and, like a fun dad.
The, like, Stannis Baratheon family is like the really shitty version of Full House.
Oh my god. I love it. The Red Woman's there. Oh my god, it makes so much sense.
Yeah, it totally does. Anyway, so they're marching to Winterfell, and they have a lot of people. Like, it went on forever and ever and ever in the march, which is cool.
I was surprised by that, because we haven't really seen that many people around the wall, and then suddenly they were there leaving.
Yeah, I thought that was a good way to show, like, the scale of Stannis' army, because since we haven't gotten to see it yet. So next, we are in Meereen, and we see Grey Worm and Missandei again.
Okay, this was the world's cutest thing, because...
I have one thing to say before we get to the cute part.
Okay.
So there's a callback, Grey Worm saying he was afraid, just like Dario said he needed to be, which I knew that scene would have a callback, but here? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was it was a little, what is it, like forced or contrived, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But also I think he was like, I feel like it feels like it's forced because of what happens later. It feels like he was just using that to get the lady.
I don't think he was using it to get the lady. It just didn't feel very in character.
Oh, please, if a man said he was afraid in war because he thought that he would never get to see you again, that you wouldn't want to put out for him.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it doesn't seem in character.
That's how I felt, too. I was like, they're really killing the Unsullied right now. Like, just in regards to, like, how we're supposed to think of the Unsullied. Are we supposed to think they're weak now? Like, is that what's supposed to be going on?
Missandei had a really good point earlier in the episode whenever he was like, I'm ashamed or whatever. Or maybe it was this part, whatever. He says he's ashamed, and she's like, it's okay that this happened. Like, basically they're trying to, like, take advantage of the Unsullied's weaknesses, which they're only good in, like, war situations and open fields. They're not good in these tight spaces with their giant spears.
Yeah.
And they don't have any like short range weapons. So, I mean, it makes sense that they kind of got picked off and stuff like that. So, but I do agree that it does seem like, why did you pay for these guys? Like, are they really going to lead you to the throne? Like, they seem less useful than they did in the season whenever she bought them. I think it was season 3.
Also, I would like to say that I totally called this romance when you fought me in the first episode, but you called the fact that he was living, so we're even.
Okay. Well, I just didn't think the romance would actually happen, but I'm really happy that it did, and both times I watched the scene, I cried when they kissed.
I just put kiss emoji, kiss emoji.
Oh, I wrote smooching in all caps. We're gross.
Also, Miss Andy has the most amazing collarbones.
She's really hot. Like, just in general, she's one of the hottest people on the show.
I know.
I guess Grey Worm's hot too, but I think I'm more into girls than guys anyway.
His Dar is the most attractive normal-looking dude to me, which is still a little weird, but it's still more normal than, the Hound.
I'm really bummed out that I'm going to have to learn how to say his Dar. His Dar Dolarak.
It's Zoe, but you were very close.
Oh, thank you.
It's only because I looked it up, so I remember it because I spent the time with it. Do you have anything else to say about Grey Worm and Miss Andy all smoochy and stuff?
No, let's go hang out with Miss Andy and Danny, where Miss Andy does not reveal what she just did, which does seem a little weird.
But why? I guess they were talking about the Pillar and Stones last season during that barbershop scene.
Yeah, and it just seems like the Unsullied and Danny's handmaiden, neither of them should be romancing. So when they are, don't you think? And Miss Sandy is very loyal to Danny. So I thought because they were immediately going to that scene, I was like, oh, she's totally going to reveal what she just did.
Yeah. The one thing, I didn't like this about the scene, but I just liked the quote, I guess, was when she was like, if I give everyone what they deserve, then I will have no one to rule, which I thought was funny. Fuck you, Danny. You're a bad leader.
Yeah, well, I think she's just frustrated. You can't tell me that there's not times where you feel like there's literally no people on Earth worth having.
All week. As my unfollowing 100 people on Twitter will say, no one that's my friend, so if you're listening to this, it wasn't you.
I liked the scene only because Danny is obviously frustrated. She doesn't know how to handle it. I think we're actually seeing weaknesses in Danny, and that's something that we've been wanting for a really long time, is just for her to acknowledge that she doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
Which is nice. Very nice.
Yeah, and I also like it because one of the reasons I like Danny initially is because she doesn't treat her handmaidens like handmaidens, and this is finally reminding us, oh yeah, she's fair and nice and treats them like people. She's asking Miss Andy for her opinion, and Miss Andy, clearly does not feel comfortable giving an opinion, but says sometimes there's only a better choice, or sometimes you don't do what people advise because there was a better choice, one that only you could see. And I thought that was really good. Ooh, shivers.
My note for that was Miss Andy is like, you listen to so many people, but then you ignore them because you're hella smarter than those white boys you keep praising. But no, white boys are supposedly on their way to help you, Danny.
But I do think
she just lost her white boy. She has to get new ones.
She needs a new token white boy. I do think whenever Danny acts from her own instincts, she usually does a better job than listening to either Dario or any of her advisors or anybody. When she reacts,
not listening to Dario.
Well, Dario's had some good ideas, keeping the fighting pits open and stuff, but he just doesn't actually give her any reason to believe him. Yeah. He just kind of says, this is what you should do. And she's like, I'm just sleeping with you. I don't know why you're talking.
Oh, I wish you would say that. I would be back in love with Danny if she said that.
So then we immediately cut to Danny and his Dar Zolarak.
Yeah! Got it, girl. So here we learn Hizdar is a coward, so we're getting back to that coward-afraid thing that's being the theme of this season, apparently, between Danny and John.
Yeah.
You can go first, because I think you're going to have more to say than me, because you love Danny more than I do.
Okay, so we're under the impression that she's going to do something that only she understands. It's some option that we haven't seen yet. And she goes in and she's basically like, I was wrong.
And you were right.
Awesome. Yeah, she's like, I was
growth.
wrong. I'm going to open the fighting pits. And I was just like, finally, Danny is listening, because these things have, and granted, it's a lot of how they're doing the cinematography, but we're seeing them directly, all these riots and stuff are directly related to her, like not budging in the fighting pits and probably some other stuff, but mainly the fighting pits is what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah. And I'm like cheering. And I'm like, that's not totally unexpected because Dario told you to do it. But yeah, okay, go Danny. And then she drops a bomb that she's going to marry a Marini, whatever, citizen, like someone from a highborn family to further integrate in. And luckily the guy that's right for the job is already on his knees. So it's his dar. And Colby just turns at me and it's like, what good luck. He goes from being almost dead by dragons to being a king. Okay, yeah, I'll take it.
My notes were, Danny is going to open the pits and they are getting married. What? Okay. He's cute though, so it's okay. And she likes a man on their knees. Yeah, girl.
Yeah, I like that part. Dario's going to be pissed.
Oh yeah, and so is Jorah McJorah Fest, who we are.
Oh yeah, but
see.
Like she's already been married when Jorah's been around, so I don't think he can bitch that hard about it. I don't think he ever actually wants her to fall in love with her or in love with him. I just think he wants to be around her.
Yeah, and just look at her from afar and appreciate
pretty
her.
much, and be like, oh, Khaleesi.
I'm so creepy, love me, but don't like love me.
Because we all know you're not going to love me.
But like appreciate me because no one else will.
Basically, yeah. So I thought this was a really interesting, again, one of the scenes where it was the most important and there was no suspense.
Yeah, I am very curious how this is going to play out. Seems like a weird decision for you to make, especially since I'm kind of like Team Hizdar as the leader of the Harpies, which on the other hand might be what she thinks too. Which is
we just don't know. This is a very fascinating decision from Dany, especially because she's been very like, I don't want to marry other people since Khal Drogo passed. I don't know if that's actually how she feels, but that's kind of what I've been feeling from her.
Yeah. Or like since she has a barren womb.
Yeah, that too. I mean, the dragons, they just claw shit out of there, so. Just kidding. I know it was the magic.
Gotta correct yourself quick. Someone already tweeted us, so don't worry about it.
How are they listening in on this? Oh, God. No, feel free to correct us. It's just I don't want a joke to be a reason why like we get like 10,000 tweets.
So we get to go to Valyria now?
Yes, I'm so excited about Valyria.
I hate that name because it sounds like venereal.
Well, when you say that, God, I'd never thought that before.
It's just because I have a hard time reading that word with how like there's so many vowels. So my brain immediately goes to a word I already know, which is venereal.
Okay.
So now we have Tyrion and Jorah in a boat. And
still in a boat.
Tyrion's like, wine me, bitch. I'm an alcoholic, and without alcohol, I am no one.
He's still funny, though, so disproving the idea that he's only funny when he's drunk. Hey.
Hey. You're an interesting person, Tyrion. You do not need the liquor. AA time. And then Tyrion and Jorah are in a boat in Valyria.
Yes, that is established. And as soon as they're like, oh, we're in Valyria, I'm like, well, here comes the Stone Men, because that's all that we've been talking about this whole season.
Yeah. So it goes through this long exposition talking about how Valyria is doomed, and it's so doomed, and Jorah's not afraid, but Valyria is this dead, amazing society, and basically everything you'd hear about Mayan culture, but make it more Games of Thrones-y.
I really liked this part, though, because like
really?
they were totally broing out about history. Yeah, they could totally have been bros if they weren't both trying to get to Dany in different ways.
Like, I just, I was mad because Valyria is supposed to be important, and it's very important to the history of Game of Thrones and how the society functions now. And so we're finally learning about this ancient society, and it could not be more confusing or unappealing.
Oh, I thought it was good.
So do you have anything nicer to say about their exposition?
Well, yeah, I thought it was super beautiful. I thought the way that they shot it was really amazing. I liked that it was kind of like an old poem or story that they were reciting, and Jorah finishes it, and they kind of have like a little bro moment there. Like,
I thought that was cute, but I thought the story was boring.
I thought it was great. Mostly because, like, that's how you talk about dead places. Like, they're not going to be like, bro, did you hear about Valyrian steel? Like, that, it made sense to me, and I really enjoyed it. And it was a very, like, Game of Thrones-y scene to me.
I think that maybe I just don't like when Tyrion talks a lot.
You know, that could be it. Especially when, you know, you might have found it pretentious. Did you find it pretentious?
Yeah, I just felt like it was, the way it was worded was so much trying to tell the audience that you're supposed to know about this, rather than them discussing the history.
Like, you didn't think it felt, like, organic?
Yes.
See, I thought it did, but only because Tyrion is that kind of person. Like, if it was any other character besides Tyrion and maybe Jorah, because he did jump in, and I was like, oh, yeah, you know a lot of stuff about this, too. Yeah. Like, I feel like it could have felt more like that, but see, I really thought it was okay.
I feel like if it were flipped, I feel like I accept exposition more from Jorah and if Tyrion finished it. But Jorah's better at it because that's always been his role since the beginning.
That's true.
Filling in the plot pieces that you don't already know, because there are characters in the thing that are like, we're filling this in from the background of the book, and I accept that from certain characters I just can't, and Tyrion is one of the ones I don't think I can accept that kind of like background noise from.
I don't know. He's done it a couple times in a convincing way. I will say whenever he did the, oh, Jorah, you're Jorah obviously because you have these breastplates and you like Dany, and I can tell all this from looking at your jerkin. I don't even know what a jerkin is. I just know it's like an ancient armor thing.
It's a shirt.
Whatever. Arya wears one, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I got that right. But, like, I thought that was super cheesy, and it didn't feel in character. But for Tyrion to know something, like, quote it from a book, of course he does. He's done this before. Like, I don't know. He's done this many times through the series. I don't have a good example other than when he's traveling to the Wall with Jon Snow.
I didn't love it because I wanted to know Valyria in a different way, I guess.
That's fair. But it's cool because they're just talking about how dead this whole city is, and then guess what?
A dragon comes.
A Drogon comes.
My notes are, the past isn't dead, Tyrion, the past is alive! And a dragon! A dragon's alive! Also, Jorah, look, there's a dragon!
I was wondering if they were, like, looking at it like, are we going the wrong way, y'all? Like, it looks like Dany's that way now.
And then, also, I can't tell if it's new music they're using this season, but I really liked the music direction of this. And also, during the scene in which the dragons were eating the body, like, they keep having this new dragon music, I guess. And I love it. It gives me good feels.
So then we see the Stone Men, as predicted.
Mine is just mostly me yelling. Do you have anything constructive to say about this first?
No, but it was very, like, I don't think the scene was, like, super suspenseful compared to some of the suspenseful but not important things, but I thought it was very engaging. Like, I was very much like, ah! Like, I was freaking out because Tyrion's still tied up, and he's trying to fight these people off, and he's like, yo, Jorah, you should untie me, maybe. And Jorah's like, nope, you're still a prisoner, and I'm just like, y'all are both idiots. Ah! And then it goes under the water, and it's just black, and I'm like, oh, God, I thought the credits was going to play.
So for me, this scene was terrible. Two of my worst fears are water and skeletons.
Oh, God.
So my notes are, fuck this, they are scary, I hate zombie creatures. Also, hell yeah, me noting that they lived here in the last episode, but Tyrion is drowning, and this is so Walking Dead, please make it stop. Oh God, there's zombies in the water, I could not fear anything more. This is worse. Like, the worst. Like in Harry Potter, those things, you remember? Oh God, the worst. Oh no!
Oh my God, you had a really tough time.
Yeah.
I was just having a tough time because I really liked Tyrion.
Dude, okay, seriously, in Harry Potter, the fourth one, when they're doing the underwater thing, and I can't remember what their name is, but they start with a G, and they pull Harry Potter under the water, and he has to, like, save Hermione and Ron, because the other one got dragged down. That was the worst for me. This was the same. I was freaking out. I didn't even care about Tyrion. I was like, make this scene stop. I'm gonna cry. This is the worst. I hate this. I hate everything.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it was bad. Yeah.
The good news is, everything's okay.
I know. Agreed whenever they blacked out. I was like, they better fucking not. That's all I said out loud. I was like, they better fucking not do that.
I was so mad. I was just like, next is going to be the credits, and then we're all just going to go home and be sad.
So now we have Jorah and Tyrion on a beach.
I didn't realize, but I guess that means they're still in Valyria.
Yeah, I'm assuming so, because I think they're a little bit past it, because I believe when it shows Jorah looking over the sea at the end, that they're looking at Valyria.
Okay.
But that could still technically be Valyria.
Yeah,
anyway.
Either way, not a good position to be in when you're trying to travel to Marine.
My first comment is, I would be okay to wake up to Ian Glenn staring into my eyes on a beach at sunset. This scene shouldn't have been romantic, but for pervert Liz, it was.
I didn't associate it with that at all. I was just like, oh, thank God, that means Tyrion's alive.
I was just like, ooh, this is beautiful and romantic. I wish I could be Tyrion. For the listeners at home, I'm making the most embarrassed face right now. I need you to know I'm embarrassed by my feelings about this.
That doesn't save you from yourself, Liz.
I know. So then Jorah's like, hey, Tyrion, were you touched by one of those things? And he's like, hell no, bro. You? Nah. And then we learn Jorah lied.
Yeah, it's so funny because as soon as, like, Jorah starts walking away, Colby just turns to me and he's like, oh, he totally got touched by one of them. He totally did. And, yeah, he did. And we see him look at his wrist and he has just a little bit of stone.
What is the point of all your stupid wrist shit if you can't protect your wrists?
I know. I was very confused by that. He has so much, like, okay, we know this because Liz cosplayed Jorah and we had a lot of safety pins and a lot of just fabrics everywhere because we were trying to recreate his dumb wrist garb. And, like, he has so much crap on his hands and wrists. How did the guy touch him?
Like, out of all the places, he has, like, his chest wide open. But
yeah.
His wrist, it's covered in, like, 4 different layers.
Well, you know, that just tells me the makeup budget was a little lower this episode.
Anyways, my second baby is dying a slow, painful death, as you pointed out. Cool.
I'm sorry. I figured you were having a rough time.
I would rather him get a more dignified ending like this than Hounded, which just seems like it'll be interesting. And I'm into my favorite characters being interesting than alive.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Do you think he's actually going to die from it?
I don't know, because part of me says yes, but the other part of me is like, well, they did remind us multiple times that Shireen has survived it.
Yes, that's what I was thinking too. And he also has, like, a plight in trying to get Dany back or, like, be on her team or something. So I feel like it'll either make us more emotional about his passing or it'll make it so that he survives because we care so much or something.
Yeah. I also, like, now they're in a rush to get to Marine because Jorah knows otherwise he will turn into a stone man. And I feel like maybe it's supposed to be, like, his last mission to be accepted to the kingdom kind of thing.
Yeah. Although I feel like in that situation, I personally would just be like, it's over, bye. Like, I don't know that I would keep going.
Yeah, I know. I'd be like, because even then Tyrion is like, we should just kill them and get them out of their misery. And I'm like, yeah, that's how I feel. And I think that was supposed to be like, oh, that's how he's going to feel about Jorah if he knows Jorah has it or something like that. I'm sure that'll come up again when Tyrion's like, we shouldn't do this to them. We should just let them take them out to pasture.
Like Bessie.
So Mia, what's your overall episode rating?
I didn't really like this one. I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 stars.
I like how you do 5 and I do 10.
Well, because I don't want to narrow down my feelings that much. It's hard. Because all I know is that I disliked this episode more than I liked it, and I think it was because it was a building episode, and it was overly dramatic for reasons that don't need to be dramatic. It faked us out too many times is my point.
I have a 3 out of 10 because I was so incredibly bored this entire episode. And I take back my previous comments about staying in the area for a long time that makes a better episode. Whenever you're in the north and it's gray and blue constantly, it gets really, really, really boring. So you had a lot of time in the Wall and a lot of time at Winterfell, not broken up by either Daenerys or King's Landing, the more beautiful places, or even Dorne now. And also Jorah, that makes me sad. Why would I rate that high?
I do wish we'd seen either King's Landing or Dorne. I did feel like the episode was missing that. Like, after the episode ended, I was like, where's my Boo Marjorie? And, like, you can't just be like, oh, the Sand Snakes are going to start an all-out war and then not return to that in the next episode.
Yeah, and then also we haven't been to Bravos in a while either, which I know we'll go to next episode. There's no way we're not going back to Bravos next episode. But even then, it just, So, who is your MVP of this episode?
Oh, God. I'm going to say... I forgot to prepare this.
Do you want me to go first? Why you think?
Yeah, you go first.
All right. Liz, who do you think the MVP of this episode is?
Shut up.
I went with Roos, and it's not because I like Roos, but I think they're doing a really good job at making similar-looking, easily confusable characters as two people you want to watch fight. If this were 2 seasons ago, and you would have told me that I would be most excited about a fight between Roos and Stannis, my reaction would have literally been, who?
Well, I'm going to go with Stannis the Manus as my MVP because his scenes were really good and also the grammar correction was just real cute.
Yeah, I liked Stannis being the only moment of humor in an episode. What? Well, I guess Tyrion, but Tyrion's expected, so.
Yeah.
And then,
also, who expected Stannis to ever be funny?
Or entertaining, or attractive.
The list goes on and on.
So, Mia, what was your favorite outfit?
I don't have one from this episode.
Yes, you do. And when I say mine, you will know it.
Oh.
Sansa dressed as her mom.
Actually, I didn't even really notice it.
Oh.
I didn't think it was that great.
Really? Yeah, no, at the dinner, she is wearing her mom's clothes. 100% definitely is wearing her mom's clothes. The episode mirrors scenes between her and her mom from, like, the first season.
Okay, I guess I like that. It's just, the rest of it was either clothes we've seen before or stuff that I didn't really like.
And I also note down, side note for Stannis, because even though it's the same outfit he always wears, my newfound feelings for Stannis gave that outfit for me newfound feelings.
Ew. Oh, God. Shut your dirty, gross mouth, Liz.
No,
like, this whole podcast
for
is starting
Stannis
to take
only.
on... No, this whole podcast is starting to take on totally new,
Okay. This episode is so boring. That's the only thing we could talk about is objectifying the men and women of this show. And also, in our disclaimer beforehand, we do say we're going to talk about the merits of attractive people. I did make that note. I did write the opening. So this is really my fault.
But you find the wrong people attractive is the thing. Although Stannis, I can concede on Stannis.
My feelings are valid, Mia.
I didn't say they weren't. I'm just saying the people you find attractive are not the people that most people would probably find attractive.
All right. Well, thanks for listening.
Tell us on Twitter if you find Stannis the Manus attractive.
You do, even if you don't know it yet.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for listening.
We do new episodes on Wednesdays following...
Good enough.
What's a Wednesday?
I don't know. Whenever we feel like it. The Wednesday.
We do episodes on Wednesdays following an episode of Game of Thrones.
Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review if you like.
Like us on Facebook. It's facebook.com/BAMFpod.
You can send us questions, comments, or concerns to bamfpod@gmail.com.
Follow the show on Twitter @BAMFpod.
You can follow your host. I'm at Liz Loxley.
I'm at XOMiaMoore.
And also, you can find more info at lilomima.com/BAMF.
As well as our donate button, because podcasting is expensive.
Valar Morgulis.
Valardo Hyrus.